out of my eye, and the first thing that went to my head was, I got to sparring with Manny Pacquiao in a week and a half. Okay, now this cut might stop it. So I wasn't even thinking about the opponent or thinking about the fight. I knew I was going to win this fight by any means, but I was thinking about my opportunity against Manny Pacquiao. But we got there.
Did you super glue it?
We got the stitches.
Yeah.
A week after the stitches came out, I was putting so much vitamin E cream and every bit of, theory that I could find on the internet to make sure it closed up good and wasn't going to give me an issue. And I went into that first sparring session with Manny, and it was okay with a cut.
Did you know Jeff Horn?
I did know Jeff, yeah. We were in the amateurs together.
How did he feel about you training with Manny?
Yeah, he wasn't happy at that stage, but he's a good guy. He's actually a good guy of the sport. And at that stage, he had come out and said, why is he going against me? He's countryman, why couldn't he give me a phone call? And me being me, I turned around him being a school teacher. I said, I've never asked for permission, from a school teacher ever. So I'm gonna go do my thing with Pacquiao no matter what.
Yeah, I think he's got to understand that you had to.
I think he does. I think he does now.
Yeah, he had to. And to be able to have an opportunity like that to spar 250 rounds with one of the greatest of all time. I mean, he won world titles in 8 divisions?
8 divisions, 13 or 14 world titles.
Crazy.
It will never be done again.
Crazy.
As much as you want to see records broken, and I want to break records. That man is a one of one.
He's a one of one. I mean, when he knocked down Thurman in that fight, I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This guy's 40 years old and still can crack and still as fast as lightning.
Yeah, look, the power that he possesses, but it's not a thumping power. It's that explosive speed, that explosive power, the footwork he gets in position. And all of a sudden he's landed 3, 4, 5 shots and then he's angled off. A lot like I did in my fight against Lopez. A lot of that sparring paid off, and it did shape me. And I know he did put out a tweet as well saying that I hope the sparring we did helped you in this fight, and straight away.
That's amazing.
And I was so excited. He's a legend of the sport.
He is a legend, and he's such an unusual guy. You know what's crazy about him is his calves.
Yeah.
When you look
Massive.
at that, they're giant. They're like a thigh.
And I know the reason why, because in General Santos, the mountains that he runs and that steep hill, that's why they're so big, because he's always constantly running the mountains. And I was doing the mountain runs with him.
Yeah.
My calves started getting bigger and bigger. But I understand, why his calves are huge. But he's always bouncing. He's always moving around.
Yes.
He'll bounce for like 20-something rounds. He'll do his pads and he's jumping up and down. And he really is an unbelievable person, unbelievable athlete, and a legend of the sport. I think as time progresses, people are really going to appreciate his greatness.
Yeah, and coming back from defeats too. I mean, he's a guy that's had his downs. He's had his ups and his downs. And, he always smiling and always friendly to people. It's like he's so admirable just as a human being.
And it shows too that defeats. I love how the UFC is. Losses are losses.
Yeah.
And boxing has this stereotype where the zero is so important. I'm undefeated, but would you rather see the best fighting the best? Right. You're going to get competitive fights and great fights. But unfortunately, in boxing, it's not like that.
Well, the biggest draw in the sport is Canelo, and Canelo's not undefeated.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's one way of looking at it. He lost to Floyd. Yeah. When Manny is also like a world-class pool player.
Well, he's got the pool tables at his mansion in his house.
He's really good.
So he's non-stop.
Like he plays like a professional.
And he loves his basketball.
Yeah,
you should see this guy
great at basketball
shooting
too.
threes. It's unbelievable.
Oh, he's a serious athlete. Did training with him? Did you make any changes to the way you approach fights or the way you prepare for fights after training with him?
I did. I learned the 1%ers, the extra bit to do the extra rounds. Usually before the sparring with Manny Pacquiao, you do your 8 rounds or your 10 rounds of pads and your sparring, but that's it. You do your ab work and you finish. With him, he does his pad work, he does his sparring, but then he's on the bag, he's on the shadow boxing, he's there doing the pad work. So the extra rounds just builds that conditioning and that stamina. And that's what I just found, that push more rounds. If the body can keep going, push more and more.
That was my first attempt.
Is it a thing where you have to figure out what your body can do? Because obviously overtraining is an issue with fighters too. Have you ever had a fight where you felt like you overtrained for it?
Not as a professional.
Logan,
in the
I
amateurs,
did this
yes,
for
as a
you.
young amateur coming up. I did feel